invention of the other GPS, the Global Positioning System, to the emergence of artificial intelligence, applications like ChatGPT, humans have become increasingly dependent on bits and bytes and silicon chips for knowledge. At one point in time, we used maps and the stars to navigate and spent days seeking information that is now at our fingertips. So what effect are modern advancements having on our brain? And in a world where knowledge is so much more findable and fleeting, what is its value? My next guest, Simon Winchester, asks these questions and more in his new book, Knowing What We Know, The Transmission of Knowledge from Ancient Wisdom to Modern Magic. Simon, what a pleasure.
Thank you very much. Lovely to be back with you.
So, when do you think we first begin to realize that we have this thing called knowledge that we're trying to pass on?
I think the beginning was in Mesopotamia, really, and of course it's relatively more easy for us to know when knowledge transmission began if there are written documents to display it. I think that once cuneiform language began south of Baghdad, then we can tell about lessons, about the teaching of things that happened. And so the first school in a town called Nippur, there are records which show children learning things, being taught things, and interestingly enough, writing them all with their little sharpened quills on tablets of Euphrates mud, and then getting it wrong and maybe throwing that tablet away, and the next morning, another child being asked to get water from the Euphrates, turning this broken piece of pottery back into mud and drying it on the bread oven and using it again. They were not only learning things, but they were being sustainable from day one. So it's a magical story on several levels.
And do you think that at some point there is a kind of recognition that that there are important bodies of knowledge to pass on, and therefore the writing is done kind of for posterity?
Very much so, and I think that's particularly noticeable among the Greeks. I mean, that may well have been noticeable among the Mesopotamians, but come to the Greeks, come to that great triumvirate of Socrates first, and then Plato, and then Aristotle. Then they got to grips with it and started to think, we've got to pass this on, but what is it? And he came up with this, still extant today. It's justified true belief. I believe you to be a man. I know you're a man, but you're Fareed Zakaria. I'm pretty sure there's a picture of Fareed that justifies my belief. You, therefore, I know, I have the knowledge of who you are.
It's provable.
Provable, exactly, justifiable. My belief is just, because the difference between belief and knowledge is, particularly when we get to churchly matters, is a profound and very serious difference, which is why, a large number of people in this country still believe that the Earth was formed 4004 BC at 9:30 in the morning. No justification for that, but belief is still a powerful beast.
So now come to, the explosion of knowledge, and let's first deal with stuff like Google and Wikipedia. I mean, it seems to me there's been a much larger change than we've actually incorporated, which is we know everything in the sense that we can get access to it. And I wonder about this now when I watch my kids at school. Why are we teaching so many facts when the facts are all easily available?
That's a hugely important question. I mean, remember, however, Karl Popper's famous dictum that knowledge is finite, but ignorance is infinite. There's an awful lot more to know that we have no idea about. But yes, I think the point you make is a very valuable one. I mean, yes, I can find out the name of the capital of South Dakota, even its pronunciation, which is not what you'd think, as you know. I can find out the atomic weight of sodium. I can find out the principal figures in the Enlightenment, Reformation, or whatever. But do I really need to know these things? I mean, Aristotle didn't know them, Plato didn't know them, Socrates didn't know them. And yet they managed to have profound thoughts about the role of humanity and laid down for us a template of how perhaps we should behave. I mean, the classic is Aristotle's view of this concept called eudaimonia, winning happiness not through pleasure, but through achievement and doing the right thing. Now that may not sound too profound a thought now, more the sort of thing you hear from the pulpit, but Nonetheless, it was thought about, put down on paper or vellum or parchment or whatever by someone who had no idea of the capital of South Dakota or the name of the senator from New York or wherever.
More broadly, do you worry that the fact that we can know everything is making us dumber?
No, I thought initially, I think when I started writing this book, I thought that was the premise. Is everything that began with the invention of the electronic calculator by a man called Jerry Merriman, wonderful name, in 1967. That began, if you like, the rot. That's when labor-saving devices started working on our brains. We didn't need to know how to calculate, how to spell, how to find out where we were, how to know anything. And initially I thought, this is going to make us dumber. I mean, it's made us fatter and flabbier, the labor-saving devices, the physical labor-saving devices. But the mental ones, will it make our brains dumber? I mean, will it, and the ultimate question is, will it remove the possibility of wisdom from society? Because wisdom surely is a lot of knowledge multiplied by a lot of age, old, wise people. We need them in society. But then I thought, well, wait a minute. Maybe what all these devices are doing is actually purging our brains of the stuff we don't need. Because with great respect to the people of South Dakota, we don't need to know the capital or the fact that it's called Pierre, not Pierre. So if it's like holding a brain under a cold tap and getting the unnecessary stuff away, leaving us, like Plato, arrogant though that may be to say, and enabling us to think the important things in life. So actually, I'm quite optimistic. About ChatGPT 4, I'm not so sure. That's a game changer. Mercifully, we got some of it into the book, but it's happening so fast that wait for the paperback.
Boy, that is so every man a Plato, as it were.
Every potential Plato is us.
Simon Winchester, pleasure to have you on.
Fareed, thank you very much indeed.
Next on GPS, obesity is at an all-time high in America and worldwide. There may be hope, this time not in the form of a diet fad or an exercise craze. That story when we come back.